It gave me this is a fucking menu screen. A working, I bet if I quit to desktop, it would deadass quit to the desktop. Is it just gonna reset?
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push
Did it just
and in what order.
Restart?
This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened. This complete
There's
isolation.
no difference.
Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps
I never know when the shit actually restarts.
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it?
Bucket. Wait.
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Bro.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
I'm gonna just listen.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos.
A lot of focus on the bucket.
Always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point,
lot of
Stanley
focus
was so
on the
absorbed
bucket.
in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Oh wait,
hold
on.
Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
The bucket, yeah. It's a lot of...
You found one of them. One of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Okay. Dig it. I like collectibles. They're kind of cool. I play a lot of fucking old school collectathon platformers and such.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting
So
him,
much focus on the
reassuring
bucket.
that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
I can't get over this shit.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
I kind of want to go, like, this way, but it'll be different. Everything's different because of the bucket. The bucket makes everything different. Right? I think that's how it works.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
What? But it's a reassurance bucket. It'll reassure.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
You know what? I got the bucket. I'll try. I'll go this way again without the bucket. But I want to see what in the full main playthrough the bucket change. Like, it's gonna be, the door is gonna open up and it's gonna be like a war zone.
Stanley and the bucket thought better of it and realized they simply had too much to live for.
All right, bucket, you and me, all the way to the end.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
I love it. It's just bucket. It's just, this is the only difference is that the bucket is here. I love it. And also there's collectibles.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Why the hell am I reassuring the bucket now? This game is trash. Stanley Parable 2, garbage. The bucket's supposed to reassure me.
Was the
Who's gonna
bucket under
reassure
the
me?
mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Hold on now.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
Bro, what
At
the
this
fuck is
point,
this?
He could trust no one except for the bucket.
Except...
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the
I'm gonna go for a theory here that I should just go with the base story because I think any choice I make
would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
I think every choice I make is gonna just be regular, but with a bucket.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over?
I got a couple of these endings I want to try right off the bat here.
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together. with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
I knew
An
it.
unbearable
I knew the
silence
main
filled
one
room,
is the one we wanted to
lingering
do.
in uncertainty. Until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Did I actually restart?
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself. That's all I need.
Nope.
If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
Nope. Still doing one playthrough. The bucket's right here.
Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Is this just the game? Wait, hold the fuck on.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
The game just happened with a bucket now? Whoa. Bruh? I don't even know what to
Coming to a
fucking
staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked
I don't even
upstairs
know
to
what
the
to
boss's
do
office.
anymore.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another
Stanlerines?
Stanlerine under your belt.
Fucking Stanlerines? Bruh. Money in the morning, money in the evening, money for breakfast, money, crisp. Wait. A Cookie Crisp? Is that a cookie, an old Cookie Crisp commercial or some shit? Wait. Where's this go? An elevator. Fucking dude doing some like little singies. Okay.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was
I
it
remembered.
that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
So I think we might just... Yeah, I think I'm just gonna keep... It still says the sequel is now paused. I'm rolling, baby. We're rolling.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
No.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Okay. It's fine.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
What are the chances that this
point,
game would just
Stanley
turn
and the
around
bucket
and go
were
full
knowingly
horror
walking
on us?
forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Oh my goodness. Half-Baked, what's going on, Famsky? Oh, we're gonna die.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
No!
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Are we still focused on the bucket? Are you fucking joking me right now?
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
What? Half-Baked, I hope you can make some sense out of this, because I'm looking at the history of the cave bucket over here, and I think
No man
my brain's
can
gonna
own
pop.
a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is
What do you
man
mean?
who should kneel before the bucket.
Who the fuck is you? Oh.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
What the fuck kind of rabbit hole are
Let
we?
Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision for...
What? 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 What?
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
There's a fucking bucket here. We're still in the same ass loop, my dude. We're still in the same ass loop.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door.
No,
on
we're
his
not.
left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow.
Fuck that bucket.
Yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Okay.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Yeah, we're still in the sequel, so shit's still weird.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense.
We're doing a loop.
And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
Why can't I see my feet when I look
doors
down?
close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
Okay.
Oh, what a
I'll take that.
Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all.
We're just going to keep
to
going.
Himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon.
In a big circle?
I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid.
Wait, hold on.
He imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Okay, I'm floating.
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Wait, then how did I fucking fly?
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream.
Wait.
So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin. the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want.
Okay.
I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice?
What the fuck?
Am I? Who am I?
It's like a fucking flat out panic.
And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
What? How is it still a sequel? What is this? God damn it. Are you joking right now?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Fucking grab the bucket, dude. I need reassurance now.
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Let's go this way for a little bit. We're still fucking freaking out about the... So we're both red and blue. Bro, I'm not doing that.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Let's go to that end bit where we have the choice to say yes or no.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him?
I'm gonna make a comment, but thought better of
this is
it.
Certainly the most logical explanation.
Don't say inappropriate things, shits, you bastard. Bruh.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
We're gonna turn the mind control thing on. With the bucket.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna turn on instead of off. There was a choice to turn them on instead
The
of
monitors
off.
jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do?
Why is this all about the bucket?
These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Let's do the thing, guys. Control. We will control.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls.
Wait, the bucket
Stanley gasped in horror.
Hold on,
Had
wait.
this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen.
Bruh.
Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hand.
What the fuck is
the one
this?
who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy.